Universalist church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share a part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Through the gifts of technology, we also gather virtually to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Welcome to all those who are joining us in this way today. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls, arise.
Good morning. Oh, that was great. My name is Beth Andes. I'm a longtime member of All Souls, and I'm very happy to welcome you here this morning. We're glad for those of you that have joined us in person and those of you who are joining us online. Now, we have the pleasure of recognizing those visiting us for the first time today. If you are a first-time visitor, please stand or raise your hand so the ushers can give you a gift. Do we have any first time? A couple of them, several, excellent, yay. So until you get your gift, leave your hand up, okay? Very great, all right. You are welcome here with all of the identities that you hold and in your fullness as a person. We hope that you will bring your whole self to our time together.
I am honored to welcome Missouri State Senator Greg Razor to our service today. He has been our senator for this part of Kansas City since 2020 and has been the most outspoken state senator for LGBTQIA+ rights, especially right now, as this state has gone after trans people. I have, in the last few weeks, read myriad news articles about the 30 bills currently in the Missouri legislature that attack trans people, and the recent rule enacted by State Attorney General Andrew Bailey that imposes onerous and nearly impossible restrictions upon gender-affirming care for both minors and adults. One thing that so many of those articles have in common is quotes from Senator Razor about how damaging this legislation and rule are. He has not backed down from his assertions that trans people deserve to live unfettered by state restrictions. We are so fortunate that Senator Razor will speak to us this morning. Thank you for being here, Senator. To begin our sacred time together, I will read Wholeness by Sharon Wiley. We speak so often of brokenness in religious life. Let us speak today of wholeness. You are welcome here. All of you. Every part of you beautiful, just the way you are. Here, you do not need to be something more or something less. No holding back, no hiding, no exerting yourself, no trying to do more or be more. You have inherent worth and dignity. Nothing to prove here. Nothing to prove to me or the person sitting next to you or to the children or to anyone. You don't have to try and be witty or more quiet or more outgoing. You are beautiful. Every part of you, beautiful, just the way you are. You do not need to change anything about yourself to be welcome here. Your skin, your hair, your belly, your limbs, your face, all beautiful just the way they are. You are extraordinary. Each and every one of you different from each and beautiful in your own beautiful way. Breathtaking. Let us worship together.
Hi, I'm Zach, and I light this chalice for respect of the interdependent web of existence of which we all are a part. I did that right.
Thank you, Zach. Now, please stand as you are able and join in the affirmation of our covenant, then remain standing as we join together in song. Together, we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
When we sing this song, This Little Light of Mine, which comes from the spirituals tradition, we remember that this was first sung by Africans enslaved in this continent, who had faith in their own light and belovedness, even when those who enslaved them did not. Let us sing and sign it in faith with liberation for all people. And so I thank Lanisa Robinson for sharing the American Sign Language for this song, and I'd like to invite any children who are present to come forward to learn from her and sing and sign, and then I'll tell you a story. So if there are any young people here, please come forward.
It's been a while since we signed this song. I think some of you were here last summer when we did it quite a few times. We're going to do a quick review of a few of the signs that we're going to use. We're not going to be signing the exact words that we sing. So, for example, when we sing light, we're going to actually sign candle. So it's one hand, and then you wiggle the fingers, pointing to it. The sign for mine is the same. When we sign shine, we're going to do it 3 different ways. We're going to sign shine, we're going to sign shine, and we're going to sign shine. I know, fancy, right? When we sign about going places, we're going to show the different ways we're going to go places. So the first time we're going to walk places. The second time, we're going to ride our car or our bike places. And the third, we're going to fly. And then when we build up our world, which is the last verse, we're going to use this really weird sign where you take all your hands, fingers, and you come together, and then you swirl it around, and that is our building up sign. And then we're going to sign world. And this is often where adults have a hard time. So with your non-dominant hand, make this shape. Then with your dominant hand, make this shape, lay it on top, and go around. World. Just follow along if you haven't done it before, and I'll make it as clear as I can.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I'm gonna grab it anyway. Okay. I'm gonna share with you an adorable book. It's called Neither by Arlie Anderson. Once upon a time, there were two kinds. These and those. One or the other. Until, honk! What kind are you? I'm both. You can't be both. You must be neither. I'm neither? Neither tried to play a this game. You can't play with us. You're not rabbity enough. And neither tried to play a that game. You can't play with us. You're not birdie enough. Why don't you find somewhere else? You're not one of us. You're neither. Neither, neither, neither. Where did you come from? Honk! I'm from the land of this and that, but I'm neither. So I'm looking for somewhere else to fit in. This isn't somewhere else, but you will fit in here. Where is here? So many different kinds. And the sign says, the land of all. Come play with us. But I'm different from everyone here. I'm neither red, nor orange, nor yellow, nor blue. Exactly! Excuse us. We're from the land of this and that, but we don't fit in at home. We are looking for somewhere else. But you said I was neither. You said I should go somewhere else. Well, this isn't somewhere else. This is the land of all, and everyone fits in here. Once upon a time, there were many kinds. This and that, somewhat and what not, either, very short of, just, rather, a little, neither, and both. And all were welcome. I invite any children that are here to go down for their classes and let us sing them out with a song.
Hi, I'm Anthony Edwards. Most of you know me. I'm the music director and director of worship arts here. And this morning, our offering goes to the AIDS Service Foundation of Greater Kansas City. I don't know if you know this, but I have the great pleasure of representing you and the greater community on the AIDS Service Foundation board. I have been their secretary for 6 years now, and that's because I missed a meeting. I love it when worlds collide. It's my great pleasure to have Senator Greg Razor here, who's been a huge part of AIDS Walk and the AIDS Service Foundation of Kansas City. And we also have my friend Ryan Gove, who is the president of AIDS Service Foundation. He's going to tell us a little bit more about the AIDS Foundation and AIDS Walk, which will be next Saturday. So thank you, Ryan. Help me welcome Ryan.
Thank you. I think he actually missed 2 meetings. That's why it's been 6 years. But I'm so thankful to be here. Love this space, love the people. Thank you for continuing to support the AIDS Service Foundation and AIDS Walk Kansas City in its 35th year. Thank you. For 35 years, we have been raising money for people who need it, for the education that is needed to support our community. The AIDS Service Foundation was founded by grassroots organizations, some of which still exist. The Kansas City Care Health Center, used to be the KC Care Clinic. Save Inc., which focuses on housing, were 2 of our original 4. Hope Care Center, our skilled nursing facility right here in Kansas City for people living with AIDS and HIV, are still our primary beneficiaries, still receiving funds from us, as well as organizations that have smaller programs that receive grants from us to help do education and prevention. HIV is still with us. People are still living with it, yes, but also still dying from it. And so we will be here with your amazing support and the support of our city until we don't have to be. So thank you for your continued support, and thank you for having us here today.
Will now be given and gratefully received. And now, please join with me as we read the dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Quinn Gormley is an activist supporting trans people in rural Maine. Her pronouns are she, her, and they, them. She shares this story asking for help, which begins with a quote from Laverne Cox. Quote, "It is revolutionary for any trans person to choose to be seen and visible in a world that tells us that we should not exist." Here's Quinn's story. I locked myself out of my car recently. I called a garage and they sent a technician. Apparently, he tried to call me on the way over and I missed it. He left a voicemail, which meant he had heard my message, which goes like this. "Hello, you've reached Quinn at the Maine Transgender Network." My trans status isn't a secret. Being public about it is part of my job. But being public and being out to random men on the side of a quiet rural road are very different things. He arrived and we wrestled back into my Subaru. After handing over my insurance card, he got quiet for a minute. Nervously, he asked, "You do the rainbow thing?" It took me a second to put the pieces together. I froze for a moment. This question doesn't usually end well. Tentatively, I answered, "Yeah, I do the rainbow thing. Is that a problem?" He shook his head and took a deep breath, and then he started to talk. His kid came out a few nights ago and wants to transition. As his father, he's very worried. He watches the news. He knows how trans kids get treated. I do too. I was a trans kid. I released the breath I'd been holding. This was a conversation I knew how to have. We talked for a while about how cruel the world is, about how this kid might very well get hurt. So he's afraid to let them transition. But then we talked about how we can't control the world. His kid is different and might get hurt anyway. So why not let them control what happiness they can? You can teach them how to handle the rest, I said. We talked about how happy kids are safer kids because happy kids have adults they can ask for help. A hug, a trading of numbers, and a few tissues later, he was on his way to the store to buy his son a clip-on tie and those Spider-Man shoes he didn't give him for his birthday. Sometimes the story does end well.
Good morning, everybody. I'm most of your state senator, I assume. I'm Greg Razor. It is a pleasure to be here. The last time I was here, I was standing down there hosting a town hall meeting, and I appreciate the church allowing me to do that. And the time before that, I think I was here right after Donald Trump was elected, and there was overflow of people wanting to get involved, and we love that. If any of you have ever given speeches before, you know you kind of plan out what you're going to say ahead of time, and I did that. And as I've been sitting here, I've changed it about 3 times. So I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what I'm about to say. I come here, was at a congregation in Brookside a few months ago that had been vandalized, and it's striking to me how much we hear in this building about love and inclusion, and how different that is than what I grew up with. Love and inclusion were replaced by hellfire and brimstone. And we heard lots of that. We heard the types of people that would get hellfire and brimstone. No one knew it, but I did. I was one of those people. And tried very hard in my teenage years to push my gayness out of me. You can't do that, just let you know. But it led me, those sermons and what I would hear around the dinner table, what I would hear at school. By the time I was 17, I was a suicidal gay teenager, like so many others. And on 2 different occasions, I came very close to taking my own life. Thankfully, I survived, and I'm not sure how, but I got out of the little small town in the Boot Hill that I lived in. I went to school at Mizzou, kind of found myself there, and then found this wonderful city called Kansas City that has embraced me. Somehow or another, you all have chosen me to be your state senator. And I wish we were doing positive things in the state Senate, but maybe with my life experience, this is the time for me to be in the Senate, because we're attacking children. They are attacking children. And I'm not going to let those kids go to bed at night not knowing that there's someone in that room fighting for them. Now, I'm not going to win every battle. I'm not going to win most battles. But the kids are going to know that I'm there. And that's very important to me. There's this amazing rabbi in St. Louis, and he has an 11-year-old trans son who's just the most adorable kid you've ever seen. And they went one day last year to meet with the most transphobic legislators. And these people said to this kid what they said to everyone else. I was their last stop of the day, which is usually the case, which means it's my job to give a whole lot of hugs. And we're sitting there with the rabbi, and he's talking, and his son is sitting at the table, and all of a sudden, Ezra spoke up, and he said, "Why do these people hate me so much?" And so I tried to explain to him that people like him and me are different. People are afraid of things that are different. And I looked at his dad and I said, could he and I just go on a field trip by ourselves right quick? I did not want this young man leaving that building thinking that that's a place where bad people are, or that that's a place where bad things happen. And so I walked him out on the floor of the Senate. I showed him where my desk was. I was explaining to him what was happening. And up on the dais was the one Republican that would accept him. Thank God. And so I sent a text message to this senator, and I said, could I bring this kid up to the dais? And I briefly explained what had happened to him. He said, get up here. And he snatched up Ezra, and he's showing him the buttons and how everything goes, and then Ezra gets to pick the next senator to speak. And you jump up and you say, Mr. President, and whoever's first gets to speak first. And so it's Ezra's job, to decide who gets to speak next. And he picks, and he picked wrong, but he picked. But he thought he was a big deal, and I've been thinking a lot about Ezra lately. His dad told me that he's not into music yet, and he's not into sports, but he wanted a picture of me and him blown up, and that's to poster size, and that's what hangs on his wall. And it means the world to me. So why are we having to deal with this? Why all of a sudden has the majority party in the state of Missouri and in the state of Kansas and all across the country suddenly, spontaneously realized that trans people exist and we need to do something about it. Well, this is a coordinated effort, and fear can be great's not the word. Fear can be an extraordinary motivating factor. And if you've got nothing else to run on in a political campaign, you've got to scare people to vote for you. If you can't get people to church with love and acceptance, drive them there with hellfire and brimstone. Drive them to the polls with, you don't know what these kids are up to. You don't know what's wrong with their parents that they would let them do this. Make up surgeries. Completely made up stories told on the floor of the Missouri State Senate. But our community has been through this time and time again. Everybody remembers Joseph McCarthy from the 1950s and the Red Scare. Hundreds of people lost their jobs because they were thought to be communists. But what we forget, actually we were never taught, is that he also had the Lavender Scare. And tens of thousands of Americans lost their job with the federal government. We can now serve in the federal government. In the 70s, we started fighting for non-discrimination laws across the country, and we were winning. And then a woman named Anita Bryant, with the Bible in one hand and orange juice in the other, came out and started to overturn these, and she won in Miami-Dade County. And I'm going to tell you something in a little bit that Harvey Milk said that night. But we now have non-discrimination ordinances all across this country. In the 80s, we had to fight for our lives as gay men were literally dying in the streets. A president who didn't talk about it, and religious leaders who openly celebrated. We lost a lot of good people at that time, but our community stuck together. And today, HIV is a very treatable chronic illness. It's no longer a death sentence. We won that battle. In the 90s, we were told if I got to serve in the military, we would no longer be a superpower. It would just, the military would collapse. You know, we're kicking Putin's butt, and we're not even there. So I think the military was all right. And if I was able to get married, straight marriages were going to collapse. Now, this one never made sense to me. But, you know, we can get married, and people are still getting married. So we keep winning these battles. Now, we lose at the beginning because people are afraid. They don't understand. And we always lose the first few battles. But never, ever, ever have we lost the final outcome. They can't pick on me anymore as a gay white man. We've won. It's not politically correct to attack me. So now they're going after trans folks, and they're going after children. And that's where I draw a line. I draw a line when you go after kids. You can attack me, I'm an adult. I've been through it. But now you're attacking kids. And what I try to instill in these kids is that this is a dark time. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to lose for a little while. But there is light on the other side. And we're going to get there. And if you know your history, you know how we get there. And you know that it comes. In 1977, the night that Anita Bryant overturned the non-discrimination policy in Miami-Dade County, a vigil took place outside of the San Francisco City Hall. If you study LGBT history in the 70s, they loved a candlelight vigil. Oh, give the gays a reason to light a candle and run out, and they were having a good time. But they had a vigil that night, and Harvey Milk spoke. And he said, we lost tonight. We lost tonight in Miami-Dade County. He said, well, what happened last night? What happened tomorrow? What will happen the next day? Now I changed the answer to fit our times, and I asked these kids, or these parents, what happened yesterday? What's going to happen tomorrow after we take this vote? What happened yesterday is, for the first time in Missouri history, Missourians all across the state were talking about transgender people and who they were and what their rights should be. And the day after the vote, the headline of every major newspaper and on every television affiliate, they were talking about trans people, who they were and what their rights should be. And a lot of what was said around those dinner tables wasn't pretty, but they were talking. And when you start to talk, you start to humanize people. You start to have a little empathy. You start to try to understand. What my colleagues on the other side of the aisle fail to realize is that they have started the process of this state accepting transgender Missourians. They've started it because they don't know their history. They're going to win a little bit. Now, I am very proud of all the red states trying to pass this. Our negotiations in the Senate were the most successful, with a sunset clause on the bill. Kids that are in treatment now can stay in treatment. We got some concessions, but it wasn't enough. But there's light on the other side. And so when we hear about 30-plus anti-LGBT bills, when we hear the terrible things that are said, remember the terrible things that were said in the 50s, and the 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s, and think about where we are today. We're going to overcome this dark time. We've overcome all of them. And one day there's going to be one of those kids, and maybe it's Ezra, who stands on that Senate floor as the first openly trans senator. And I hope I'm there to see him sworn in. I'm going to leave you with this, just a point of pride for our community. I am only the second openly LGBT person to ever serve in the Missouri State Senate. I'm the first openly gay man, and the first LGBT person was Jolie Justice. This state has had 2 LGBT senators, both from right here in this district. So thank you very much. It's an honor for this kid from a cotton farm in the Boot Hill to be the senator from Kansas City, and I appreciate you giving me that honor. Thank you.
My friends, my church, my beloved community, it gives me, a de-indoctrinated Catholic, great pleasure to read Blessed Are the Queer by H.P. Rivers, a Unitarian Universalist seminarian who uses the they, them pronouns. Blessed are the wanderers seeking affirmation. Blessed are the worshipers praying from closets, pulpits, pews, and hardship. Blessed are the lovers of leaving family and familiarity, leaving tables where love is not being served. Blessed are those who stay. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the queer disciples of truth, living, breathing, sacred reflections of divine love.
So, in my preparations for this service, I read a lot of articles about legislative attacks on trans people. And I found the website for the Transformation Project, which is a volunteer-run nonprofit that is tracking every single bill in every state that affects trans people. Their list is searchable. And so I looked at the entries for all of the current anti-trans legislation in Missouri. There are 30 bills. These are my notes. And I put them in categories. A bunch of them are very similar, especially the 10 bills banning gender-affirming healthcare for minors. 8 ban trans student athletes from playing in sports that match their true gender. 4 bills place extreme limitations on drag performance. And at least 1 bans minors from viewing any performance that includes someone dressed as a gender that does not match their gender assigned at birth. So that's not even just drag. That is anyone on stage who is trans and dressed as their true identity. There are 2 Don't Say Gay bills, one of which might prevent any LGBTQIA+ person from being a teacher. There's a bill that bans birth certificate changes of gender, one that bans trans students from using their correct pronouns at school unless there is parental approval, which also allows anyone who works at the school to misgender students because they just don't want to use the correct pronouns. A couple of bills target med schools and what they are allowed to teach, and there's a bill that bans discussing gender in health class. This list is overwhelming. And I've told you about all of these bills so that you might feel this truth. It's overwhelming. And that's all before we consider the emergency rule from Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey that sets up so many and such onerous barriers to gender-affirming care for minors and adults as to essentially function as a ban. Now, I'm thrilled. I am thrilled that Lambda Legal and the ACLU filed a lawsuit and asked the judge to stop it from going into effect last Thursday. So its effect is currently delayed until tomorrow, but it might be delayed further. We just don't know, because this is in the hands of a judge. But this lawsuit gives some amount of hope for reprieve. Now, of course, Governor Mike Parson has threatened to force the legislature into special legislative session if they do not pass a ban on gender-affirming care for minors before the regular session ends on May 12th. So the governor won't let the legislatures, like Senator Razor, go home for the summer unless they pass this harmful legislation. Some of you live in Kansas, so these things happening in Missouri don't directly affect your communities. That said, Kansas just voted to override Governor Laura Keeley's veto of a bill that bars trans people from any single-sex space that does not match their sex assigned at birth. Some say that this is the most expansive bathroom bill in the entire country. Then I can't not mention Montana, where the first transgender lawmaker, Zoe Zephyr, has been banned from the floor and even the coat room for the remainder of the session because the conservative majority didn't like how she spoke against an anti-trans bill. I posted on Facebook this week about the 30 bills and the Attorney General's rule. I wrote, "My heart is heavy." And it is. I mean, first, there's that anger at the injustice. But then it's this heaviness and sadness that we live in a time and a place where this is happening, where the cries of protest and the begging for compassion and understanding and love are simply ignored. Children sharing their moving stories about what it means to be themselves, to look and feel and be treated as who they really are. And legislators simply look away and choose to believe that they don't exist. And history shows us patterns that indicate that this might just be the beginning. When we look at things that have led to genocides. Because that right there is the deepest fear of my trans and non-binary friends. What's happening now is genuinely terrifying. But how long until all of the protections are torn down? Until all trans people are driven back into the closet, forced to live as a gender that is not theirs, because being trans could be banned next. It could even be met with the death penalty. This is what we might face, and I really hope that the history that Senator Razor brought to us this morning is the direction it really goes. I ask that you not sigh a sigh of relief that you are not trans, that this doesn't affect you. There are some who will point out that it's just a matter of time until other groups are targeted and legislated by hate, until one of your identities is attacked in this way. They might be right. It could happen. And let's talk about our faith, our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our seventh principle is often used to support environmentalism. It states that we affirm and promote the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Yep, that includes the web of life connecting us to nature, but that web also connects all of us to each other and everyone else in the world. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King stated, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of history, of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." I am lessened when my trans siblings live under threat. I am less for each trans life lost to violence or suicide. And these bills, even just the debate of these bills, can fan the flames of hatred that lead to violence. Kids and adults who are unable to live into who they know they are significantly more likely to take their own lives. Zoe Zephyr, the trans legislator in Montana, was originally disciplined for telling the other lawmakers that by voting for the anti-trans bill, that they would have blood on your hands. That's what she said, and she wasn't wrong. She spoke truth. And we are called by our faith to resist injustice, to speak out for justice, for human rights. Those of us who are cisgendered have a responsibility to be true allies to our trans siblings, not just saying that we are or posting something on social media. We need to risk, to show up at demonstrations, to contact our representatives, write letters to the editor, and give money. The Missouri ACLU could use support for its legislation, which is already making a difference. Promo Missouri is a political organization holding protests and lobbying to support LGBTQIA+ people in Missouri. They've been quoted in news articles almost as much as Senator Razor. The UUA's Side with Love campaign is working with a national organization, the Trans Resistance Network, which is coordinating direct efforts to help trans people and families. So you could go to their website, sign up to help families with moving to another state, a safer state. Finding ways to still get gender-affirming care, personal and financial support. Even when the legislative reality seems impossible to change, you can volunteer to make something easier for a trans family. Our UUA president, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, wrote in a March 6th press release, "We, Unitarian Universalists, are clear and unapologetic. Our LGBTQIA+ siblings are sacred, whole, and divine. As Unitarian Universalists, we understand that the full expression of the diversity of gender and sexuality is a gift. Our commitment to love and justice, to inclusive ministry and prophetic action is deep and life-affirming." This is who we are. We live out our faith by bending the arc of the universe toward justice. It was Unitarian minister, the Reverend Theodore Parker, who in 1852 originally wrote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but a little ways. But from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." Yeah, that was one of ours. MLK stole it from us. Right now, when it seems so impossible to recognize any bend toward justice, when it seems as if justice were moving backwards, it takes faith to accept Reverend Parker's words. But we are a people of faith. We recognize goodness in people and that it is possible to build inclusive, beloved community. And we can help bend that arc because we love the hell out of the world. Because we know it matters for all of us. May it be so. Please join in singing our closing hymn, "The Fire of Commitment." We release this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our faith calls us to the work of justice. Knowing that trans people are divine, we are called to solidarity, to resist the hate. Let us embody hope, bolstered by one another, bending the arc toward justice.